I would like to just take a moment to thank our organizational members. Our org members assist in collaborating, innovating with ISOC and our global network of peers to address the internet's biggest challenges of today and tomorrow. So thank you all, our org members. North America, we're home to a very robust group of organizational members. So not to you, thank you. Um, and next, I'd like to just highlight our alumni network. In addition to the org members, we have this robust alumni network with nearly 400 alumni across 100 countries. And this year, we've introduced a number of new programs, which are exciting ways to get involved with the Internet Society. If you look in our chat, we'll post some links towards those alumni opportunities. Before we hand over the meeting to our MC in the community, I think we should start off with just a video message. And if we could get that going, please.
Thank you for being a member of the Internet Society. Thank you for being a member of your chapter or your organization that participates in the work with us, and for all that you do to ensure that the Internet really is for everyone.
Being a member of the Internet Society inspires me to help people to create a cyber journey, a safe cyber journey on the Internet, and for the Internet to be a good force.
It inspires me to actually advocate for a safe, open, and trustworthy Internet.
I am very proud that together we are creating an Internet for everyone. By working together and learning from each other, inspired by Internet mission and values.
Being an Internet Society member, I feel proud to be the change and to reach out to millions in Africa, in Asia. The values that they've spent on me and the way they have groomed me is what is possible of what we can do to change the Internet for everyone. Together, we can change.
We are helping to create a better understanding of what Internet governance is, promoting multi-stakeholderism in the Internet space, and to build capacity within the country, especially to younger users, through the India School of Internet Governance and other such initiatives.
My membership in such amazing association gives me more power and more capacity, and it's an opportunity to collaborate.
And what inspires me more being a member of Internet Society is the capability of empowering people and also building a network that is trustworthy, globally connected. So when I see those transformations that we do in people's lives, inspire me more to continue.
The impact that all of you have on the Internet, in your local communities, in your organizations, in your businesses, in your universities, is really what drives us and what ensures that we can bring about change in the world.
I'd like to take a time to hand over the remainder of the call to our Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Caleb Ogundele, who is a member of our Internet Society's Board of Trustees. Welcome, Caleb, and thank you for assisting us today.
Thank you very much, Kyle, and it's great to be here. It's a pleasure to get to lead a call to celebrate our community and also showcase their enthusiasm and their expertise, as well as the passion everyone has to serve the community. So just a quick one. While brainstorming an area of focus for this call, we decided we would like to focus on something that everyone in the North American region has been affected by in some fashion, as well as the rest of our global community. So that led us to the role of the Internet in emergency preparedness and emergency response. So over the years, we've had an increase in severe weather events or natural disasters, such as wildfires, storms, flood, droughts, earthquake, and sadly, wars and mass casualty events where there is need for critical information to be available for public consumption during those difficult times. This information can prepare and inform individuals and ultimately save lives, right? And today we will discuss just how important the Internet plays in such events and ways we can leverage technology to improve outcomes, right? And we will start off by having a guest speaker, Joe Hillis from the Information Technology Disaster Research Center, ITDRC, and the recipient of an Internet Society Foundation Resilient Grant, alongside our very own Internet Society, Dan York, who happens to be the coordinator of the Vermont ITDRC, to discuss the ITDRC's function and the assistance they usually offer. We'll then move to skill sharing portion of the call, during which we get representatives of our New York and Manitoba chapter. They will share some of their contributions to emergency response and connecting their own communities as well. After the skill share section that we'll be having, I do believe that we'll also have a panel session with a number of representatives from our various chapters speaking and sharing their thoughts and stories on importance of the internet during such events and why it is such a useful tool. I will then touch base with others on ways where you can get involved and how to find opportunities in your community to participate in activities. So without further introduction, I'd like to welcome our guest speaker, Joe Hillis from the ITDRC, and our very own Dan York. Before we jump in, maybe you can, Dan, maybe you can just briefly explain to us how you got involved with the ITDRC and why you choose to do so. And I'm sure Joe Willis will touch on how one can get involved during this talk. So over to you, Dan. Yeah, please go ahead.
Actually, I think it would be better if we talk about Joe, have Joe do that first.
Okay, great. Over to you, Joe, then.
Thank you, and good morning. Happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Joe Hillis. I am the co-founder and operations director for the Information Technology Disaster Resource Center. For those that aren't familiar with the organization, ITDRC is a volunteer-driven nonprofit. We are based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're 17 of the United States. So central part of the United States. And so our function, our role really is to connect communities, after a disaster. That's exactly what the organization was founded to do, which is to reconnect communities and people after disaster. To accomplish our mission, and certainly on the disaster side, we generally have to keep one leg in the emergency management space, right? So it's very important that the work that we do is coordinated with others who are running the disaster response, but then also our support, which comes from the technology community, and that's the typical sponsors that you would see from the manufacturers, all the way down to the individual volunteers. So this is kind of a representation of where within the United States. I mean, we're a domestic organization. When ITDRC was founded, there were other organizations who did provide emergency response, similar to what we do throughout the rest of the world. There was somewhat of an imbalance, right? There were a lot of organizations who actually were helping more internationally than domestically here. So that's really what we were founded under the premise. And so if you look at this map, these are the sites that are open as of within the last month or so. The sites that we have open around the United States and just a little bit outside of that. Our organization is particularly interested in rural and underserved communities, and so this photograph is from the rural frontier out in rural Washington state, and so this is what we believe to be the smallest library that we've ever connected. Yes, we do have an internet connection that's at this community library. And to the largest cities in the United States. So we have a number of connections throughout New York City where we provide, free and open internet. These were all kind of COVID initiatives when basically all the insides of buildings shut down. This was a federally declared disaster, or actually a worldwide disaster, if you will. But there was nothing wrong. It wasn't your typical smoking hole in the ground, right? But this is just that we needed to extend Wi-Fi outside of the four walls into green spaces and places where people could access it. So I mentioned that we're a domestic organization, but over the last few years, if you will, we have entertained additional requests outside of the United States. Again, our goal is to be a force multiplier for the organizations who are already operating outside of the United States, but we've supported things like the Ukraine war, some of the challenges that are happening in Sudan and places like that. So again, as we slowly and measuredly expand our footprint into the international space, again, it is more to be a complement to the organizations who are already doing work there. So our priorities, like everybody, we have to provision our resources and make sure that we have enough resources to go around. So, but life safety does get the first cut at our resources. So anything to do with emergency response in that, police, fire, emergency management, hospital emergency rooms. They are just as important, if you will, as the response itself. And critical infrastructure, right? Things like power and water systems and things like that. Again, those get the first cut of our resources. Secondly, we focus on mass care, right? That's the feeding and the sheltering operations that happen after a hurricane, or a tornado or a flood or whatever that is, right? We know that the people often leave home without their devices, for example. And so we feel like it's very important for them. Mass care is one of our really high focus areas because it helps with the mental health of the community, right? If you think about a disaster, certainly here in the States, where it may be something like a fire in California, where communications have been impacted, the people who are there and impacted by the fire certainly want to let their family and loved ones know in other parts of the country or the world that, hey, we're okay. Similarly, people who are not there with them, all they're seeing on the media is there's this large fire in Los Angeles, and we want to make sure that our people are okay. So that said, I mean, we feel like this is connecting people is really that. And when I say connecting people, we're talking about kind of at a mental level, if you will. So some of the other focus areas for us is short-term community recovery once the disaster has been contained. And there are some critical services that need to be restarted, and then ultimate long-term recovery, which is the rebuilding of that. So at a high level, ITDRC has, we use a number of 5,000 technical volunteers. That's probably a little bit misleading at this point, just because we've imposed some additional requirements on our folks. ITDRC was never really intended to be a social organization, if you will. We wanted to have volunteers who were involved in kind of actually making a difference. So less of a fraternal organization, although it is fantastic it's fantastic to have them involved in the work that we're doing. So we have an emergency communication support team, and these are things where the people are credentialed, educated, and able to function within the emergency response itself. So we also have in the United States, we have the country is broken into 10 regions. They're called FEMA regions, which is our federal emergency management. And so we have resources staged in all 10 FEMA regions. So our goal is actually to have our resources located within 300 miles or 5 hours of the largest population centers in America. And that's a goal that we aspire to do. And so I'll share a little bit more about how we do that. And we have a tech task force partner program, right, which is where we have employee volunteers from some of these large tech companies who entrust their skills to us, that they're able to take some time off from work, actually deploy into the field with us. We take care of them pretty much door to door to do that. But it allows their employers to be involved in a meaningful way, also give them the time off to come out to the field with us. And more recently, over the last few years, we've had certainly a significant increase in cyber events. And so in response to that, we've formalized a cyber response team, which we're able to help support that. So I'll take a little bit deeper dive into that, I think. So we talk about our mission support areas, and these are kind of our consumers, if you will. These are the people who generally reach out for our resources. We never self-deploy. Everything we do has to be done based on a request, but the request can come from the government, it can come from a nonprofit, it can come from industry, wherever that is. we have I guess you would say that our focus areas, and just pick nonprofits, for example, our goal is to support them from a technical perspective, give them a connectivity, give them the devices, give them the telephone connections, whatever it is they need, but let them use their people and their dollars and resources to help with recovery and rebuilding. So again, we value the survivors. We do provide things like Wi-Fi connectivity in shelters and cell phone charging stations. Again, like I said, to enable these folks to connect with their loved ones, let them know that that they're safe and well. So we do this pretty much throughout the life cycle, which is the preparedness phase of a disaster, the response phase, and then the recovery phase of a disaster as well. And I did mention the cyber incident support. There's probably maybe a quarter of our membership has experience or has their day job is in network security or information security or things like that. But because we're a volunteer-based organization, we generally only get their cycles for 5 to 10 days, 7 to 10 days. So we're not able to take on the responsibility of running a cyber incident from start to finish. Those typically take months to years to recover. But what we will do is provide them with temporary network connectivity, set up different an alternate environment for them to conduct the recovery in, things like that, give them smart hands, loan them equipment to be able to do that. Technology assets. So we're very blessed to be able to or to be supported by industry. And so we have consequently 24,000 serialized assets inside of our inventory. We have literally thousands of kits, again, staged throughout the United States, with the large concentration of them being inside of our National Disaster Relief Coordination Center and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So again, won't read the list, but just to suffice it to say that we're kind of this lending library where people can come to us. We have literally thousands of computers and tablets and IP telephones and broadband, mobile broadband, all the things that they might need to be able to do that. In some cases, we get some really tricky specific repairs, whether it's an old, hey, we need a SCSI Terminator type thing, all the way to, hey, we have a legacy key PBX system, those types of things. So we do maintain a lot of those things as well. Mobile workspace. I mean, we do have a modest fleet. We have about 65 or so fleet assets in our fleet. We have more that are being built and on the way. So our goal is really to make sure that in the absence of a safe place to operate or to run a disaster from, that we'll provide temporary workspace for that to happen. These are free to use, if you will, and we'll staff them throughout that. As was mentioned at the top of the hour, ITDRC was the recipient of a Internet Society Foundation grant back in 2023, where we we're outfitting trailers to put in each of the 10 FEMA regions. These are self-contained trailers that have solar panels on them, batteries for those systems to keep them up. They have Wi-Fi, which, and then they also contain enough equipment to do a minimum of 10 additional sites in addition to the trailer. So this was a fantastic grant for us. It really enabled us to solidify, if you will, our footprint around the United States, just to make sure that we had resources that were located relatively close to where a disaster may be occurring. This is just kind of a snapshot of some of the assets that are in our fleet. We have everything from emergency response vehicles to service vehicles to what we call type 1, 2, 3, and 4 mobile operation centers or mobile command centers. And they just depend, they're typed based on the number of seats in them, the capabilities of them, and whatnot. So you can see that on the bottom right, that is an example of the disaster relief trailers that we put in place using the Internet Society funding. So our people, obviously, every organization will tell you that our secret sauce is the people, right? Because these folks bring all different types of skill sets to us. And it's not just the technical skill sets. I mean, we have room for all of them, and I have another slide coming up on that. But suffice it to say that the members of our organization have deep technical backgrounds. They work for some of the most recognizable names in technology. They have a heart of service, if you will, where they're willing to come out and leave their jobs, leave their families, come spend a week and sometimes 2 weeks in some of the most crummiest conditions, if you will. If you've ever slept in a tent after a hurricane or had to sleep on a cot with inside of a mosquito net, these are things that most of these tech people are not used to doing, but yet they will find opportunities. They have opportunities to come out and do that. So we also have our own logistics support team. And what does that mean? It means when we go into it as a community after a disaster, we don't want to be a drain on that. They're already experiencing challenges and issues because of the disaster. We don't want to add to that. So we generally come self-sufficient, where we bring our own power, we bring our own places, tents if we have to, we cook our own meals, we have our own fuel, all those types of things. So anyway, again, we have people who may be less technical, but yet, for example, they may be fresh out of the military, and this is an opportunity for them to continue their service doing things very familiar to them. And then behind every disaster response is a remote response team. And these people handle all the normal functions that any organization would, right? Just to take our mobilization team, for example, they do everything from vetting our volunteers to make sure that they have current background checks, to arranging flights for them, rental vehicles if need be, hotel rooms, all the types of things. But same thing with monitoring our networks and making sure that we understand what's going on. For example, that, with weather, right? We want to make sure that if there's significant weather that's impending where our crews are, that we have that thing. So there are a lot of roles inside the organization that are not technical that people get involved in. So some of the things that we're working on, we have lovingly call a response innovation lab. And so we have several projects that we're working on to help advance not only the internet, the accessibility of the internet, but also to make it be useful in other things. So, which the technology is probably very well known. It's where cellular networks are able to offload to wireless networks. What's really key is that during large disasters, when cellular networks do go down, people are generally holding a brick and they're not able to communicate. And so by us using the pass point, for example, they can see it broadcast itself as if it were a cellular enabled connection. So we're able to connect a lot more people, and I mean significantly a lot more people, because they're not actually having to do anything, right? They're not having to open their phone up to settings and find a Wi-Fi network near them. Their phones, in many cases, automatically connect. So Halo mesh connectivity, we have people that organizations that come to us and say, this is a problem we're trying to solve for. And one of the things just around this is we have there's a search and rescue team that does cave rescue, and they struggle with typical Wi-Fi, 2.4, 5 gig Wi-Fi, right, inside of caves. So by us coming up with a solution for them in the 800, 900 megahertz that gets them a little bit closer to what they're wanting to do or what they're needing to do as they go deeper into caves. So I won't go through all these, but just to let you know that, I mean, ITDRC is one of those organizations where we respond to generally 40 to 60 federally declared disasters a year. It doesn't necessarily make us experts, but what it does do is it lets us see all these different scenarios where response challenges, communications challenges, internet connectivity challenges. And so what we try to do is innovate around that, see if we can't help with that. So certainly, just like the base camp and the spike camp that you see, us being able, Wi-Fi doesn't necessarily penetrate inside of tents at a fire camp, for example, because they've got silver thermal linings inside of them. But by just us switching over to LTE, for example, and now we're no longer on a 1 watt access point, we're on a 50 watt access point, and we can punch holes into those tents, get the signal, and use private LTE, for example, for backhaul. So I believe that is the end of my slides. I think I have one more, which is just if you want to learn more, I mean, you can visit itdrc.org. If you'd like to join our team, there's a link right there that you can get set up on. So with that, I know Dan and I are going to have a little conversation, I think. So,
yeah, Kyle had asked you to talk a bit about why I got involved. And I think for those who are just saw what Joe said. You can see it's a pretty amazing organization in some ways. I should say, for those who are watching, I'm Dan York. I've been a member of the organization of the Internet Society since the 2000s. I became staff in 2011. Have had a bunch of different roles. I live near Burlington, Vermont, about 45 minutes south of the Canadian border. So bonjour to our Quebecois colleagues here. As part of my job, I just, and I had realized I had to do this. So as part of my Internet Society job, I had to go, and part of what I do is monitor local connectivity. And so I saw this article about this organization that was deploying public access Wi-Fi in Vermont. And so I was like, what is this? And I checked it out, and it turned out to be ITDRC doing a non-emergency project for the state of, this was back in COVID pandemic kind of time, to go and bring more things there. So I learned about it. I started to do it. And then I decided to, I can join Joe in putting a hat on here and become an ITDRC volunteer. There's kind of three reasons why I did it and still do it. One is that I came out of a family of first responders. I grew up in the volunteer fire service. I was a volunteer firefighter and EMT. I did a lot of that kind of thing for many years. And I found great value in helping people in crisis. Fast forward a couple decades, I don't do that anymore. But I found that ITDRC was a great way for me to be able to provide that. And with the knowledge and skills that I have today, the IT knowledge and things, which is the second reason I joined, which was that to gain more knowledge and information. As part of becoming a volunteer, there's a whole training process. There's monthly sessions. There's also this rich community of technical volunteers who are sharing knowledge and best practices. And I mean, I've been working with computer networks for 40 years. I've written books, I've taught courses, I've done lots of things. But what you know about deploying a network in an enterprise is way different from what Joe just showed in those pictures that are there. It's a whole different world to deploy it out there. And also, personally, I was learning more about updated equipment because my knowledge is older. I don't know the newest things that ITDRC is getting out there. There's also a professional benefit. Those of you who know me in the ISOC world know that I do a lot with low Earth orbit satellites. But if you saw in those pictures, what's Joe got in there? It's a lot of the Starlink and other things providing that connectivity. So it was there. And then I'm able to bring some of the knowledge I learned from there back into informing my work within the Internet Society when we're talking about some of that stuff, because I'm learning about how are people doing these things in actual disasters. And then the final part was really that the third reason was I'm interested in building resilience, local resilience for me, for our community. And a lot of that is building human resilience and getting the people involved in some way, in some form. I have not actually deployed yet. Funny thing, hurricanes, tornadoes, and wildfires don't consult Dan York's schedule to see when I might be available to go. They've come, I've had deliverables. I'm kind of in a job that I can't just drop things for 2 weeks and go away to do something. But disasters continue to happen. And at some point I intend, hopefully there'll be an alignment with some time when I can get out and be involved. In the meantime, I'm focused on the knowledge sharing and developing local resilience. And I encourage other people to check it out. It's a lot of interesting things to learn and some great people involved with that. So
That's
we did
fantastic.
a couple questions, Joe. I saw that we're here.
I was just going through those, and and somebody asked if we worked on the Lahaina fire, and absolutely, I was there while the fire was still burning, within 24 hours of it lighting off, and I was also there last week as well. So we are continuing through, through recovery. Right, we have actually 60 temporary homes connected by Starlink there. These are the folks who were displaced and are living in the FEMA housing right now. So I don't want to get ahead of that. I think that I wasn't sure whether if we could take questions now. I'm happy to work through the list, and if not, I'll hang around to the end. And
Yes,
Taylor, yeah.
Yeah, I think you should hang around because you have lots of interesting stuff to tell us about your work. And I just wanted to thank you, Joe and Dan, for fascinating work you guys do. And I wish we didn't need emergency responses like that, deployments like that. But I'm glad that ITDRC is always ready to kick in and help when there is need for that. So thank you so much for the work that you do. And I also wanted to thank ISOC Foundation for an excellent work that they've done in supporting the work that you're doing. Highlighting that, I feel, is very important as well. So just to save us some time, I'd like to move on to move on and allow some of our chapters to showcase some of their contributions towards emergency response and preparedness in urban and both remote setting. I'd like to, first of all, invite Stuart Reid from our New York chapter to share some of the work the chapter has done to inform communities about the work that they're doing. So over to you, Stuart. Yep.
Thank you, Caleb. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to our ISOC family. Fascinating hearing about the work of Joe and Dan in ITDRC. Great work, guys. Very inspiring. Whereas you guys have a global footprint, the stuff that we are doing here in New York with the chapter and our community partners is hyper local. We are really focused on folks on the ground in our community. We began with the creation of the WEBT, a New York Community Emergency Broadcast Team. The team, WEBT, the New York Emergency Broadcast Team, was created following Hurricane Sandy in 2012. That hurricane hit the New York region in the winter of 2012. I believe it was November. And it had an incredible impact, and even more so in that there were areas of the city that flooded that had never flooded before. So we had new flood zones identified in Harlem, new flood zones identified in Brooklyn, and we were deluged with water. There were parts of Rockaway in Brooklyn where water came up to the second story of public housing developments. Communication systems got knocked out. FDNY was not there. The NYPD could not communicate. So it was a very dire situation. What we learned, we have a community radio station in Harlem, WHCR, and we ended up being isolated. We couldn't get information from the community about what was going on. We couldn't broadcast out about what was going on. So what we decided to do was create a emergency broadcast team, utilizing our technology resources and our Harlem community relationships to build a team of about 30 folks organized around the incident command structure. So that was in late 2012 or early 2013. The WEBT mission, basically to provide emergency preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery information. Again, there's no local on-the-ground way to communicate with folks in the community. What we found is that the major media would report on downtown areas, on high-profile communities, but on the lower income communities and some of the outer boroughs, there was very little information. So our mission was to create a team that reported on what was going on in the ground in the Harlem community and create a reliable, resilient, and redundant communication system. And when there was no emergency going on, we used the network to provide hyper-local news and information about what was going on, is going on in the community. Now, the WEBT communications platform, one of the things that we learned during Superstorm Sandy is you never know what communication systems are going to work when. So we use a whole diverse portfolio of communication platforms, much like what Joe was talking about, not with quite the sophistication, but still with a lot of the diversity. We use free community Wi-Fi. We have solar-powered access points. We have a mobile radio network that's licensed by the FCC. WQKJ 301 are the call letters. We use smartphone walkie-talkies. We have our community radio station, the FM radio station, headquartered at City College in New York. And we also work in housing developments, public housing developments around the city, of which there are over 300. 500,000 people, incredibly large community of underserved, under-resourced folks where we focus. In those developments, and a number of them we are installing low-power FM radio. We also have a website, WHCR Emergency Broadcast Team, and we do live streaming and utilize social media. So all these are various platforms. Again, you don't know what's going to work, what's going to be knocked out in any given locale during any given emergency or disaster. So it pays to have redundant, diverse communication platforms. And that's what we do. Just want to talk a little bit about mobile radio. The FCC here in the U.S. licenses mobile radios. We're able to get a frequency associated with our team that enables us to operate our mobile radio network. The beauty of the mobile radios is that they operate point to point. We don't need towers. We don't need the internet. Point to point. And in the Far Rockaway disaster so that was the only radio communication network that was operational. A group called Citywide Disaster was out there monitoring and responding. We brought them in to train our team on how to operate the mobile radios. The current footprint of that radio extends from 96th Street in Midtown Manhattan to Upper Manhattan and river to river. Now, in addition to this mobile radio, we also utilize smartphone radio, which works on Wi-Fi. The smartphone does not even have to be connected. It doesn't have to be activated. As long as the Wi-Fi is working, the walkie-talkie application works. We also are utilizing it within particular developments, really low-cost, consumer-grade walkie-talkies that enable folks, families, and folks within a given community to talk to each other in an emergency with other communications around. We're also exploring amateur radio. We haven't yet gotten into that, but we have a few folks that are starting to take the classes, and we're starting to explore how we can build that into our whole communications portfolio. We have a website, WHCR EBT, where we have live streams coming from our emergency studio at the radio station, from the broadcast studio at the radio station, and also from local community streaming stations housed in public housing developments around the city. The site includes an evacuation map. The evacuation center includes live emergency alerts from the city, as well as links to the fire department and the police department to monitor their communications. And of course, it's multilingual and can be translated. So that's, again, another way that we communicate with our folks. We also utilize community information and emergency streams. Now, this is a unique piece in that we are creating emergency and information streaming capability at housing developments around the city. Not only in Harlem, we're also starting to expand into Brooklyn. And what this enables us to do is it enables the folks on the ground in the housing communities to put out information about what's going on in their community. In emergencies, they send out alerts and information about evacuation, where to go, shelter in place, or evacuate, etc. During normal times, they distribute news and information about what's going on in their community. One of the features of the information stream is something called Virtual Tenant Patrol. And that's a service where residents are able to video monitor public spaces in their development in real time. So it can see what's going on, who's downstairs, who's in the lobby, what's going on in the playground, etc. The real power of this is that it's programmed and controlled by folks in the community. It's not top down, it's bottom up. It's folks in the community that are trained in how to use these technology tools that are actually programming and putting the information out there. Interestingly, the slogan for the Virtual Tenant Patrol is "We are watching us." Not we are watching you, but we are watching us, putting the tools into the hands of the community themselves. We find that this is really working to build communities in the way that it used to be decades ago when I was a young person, and you couldn't go anywhere in the neighborhood without someone reporting back to your mom about what you were doing, what was going on. This service is starting to recreate and rebuild that kind of community connectivity. This is just one of the screenshot. Again, we use multiple ways to deliver our information. This is a stream that we have on X, where you're looking at playback of an event, emergency preparedness day event that we conducted. Also looking at the emergency studio that we have at WHCR Radio, and then down in the inset is myself and fellow board member Dave Burstein. We have a weekly radio show on community and technology that also gets pushed out over these streams. This is, again, another information stream. This is controlled and programmed by folks in the developments, in the public housing developments. They put notices. Here we're looking again at some of the events going on. There's certain television channels that can't be received in the high density communities, WNYC in particular, among others. We push those out on this network so that folks can stay informed and connected. This is a screenshot of our virtual tenant patrol program by the community again. And the local chapter has sponsored many of these streams. You see our logo there. Now, in addition to actually monitoring what's going on in the development in the public spaces, these streams enable the resident leaders to push information out, to do crawls, to do chatting. So it can live chat back and forth among folks in the community. So it's really a communications, of on-the-ground local communications tool for folks to stay informed and connected with each other. These are just some of the community groups that we're connected with. I won't go through the whole list, but they are all local communication groups in Harlem and the Bronx. And TSCI, the Smart Community Initiative, they're one of our system integrators that helps us with the deployment and ongoing operation of the technology that we use. I just want to briefly highlight on the next slide the Harlem Emergency Network. This is a group that, in addition to the communications aspects of what we do, they are very connected with houses of worship, businesses, medical facilities, civic groups, and others, and coordinating resources on the ground. One of the issues in an emergency is that we don't really know where things are. One of the examples was there was a community center during COVID that was desperately in need of masks. And what they didn't know is right around the corner, a block away, there was a school that had a truckload of masks. But if that communication is not connected, if the folks don't know who needs and where the resources are, it's all to no avail. So this is one of the roles that the Harlem Emergency Network plays in a very critical way in the Harlem community. The Manhattan North Network is a network that is run and controlled by folks in public housing, resident groups in public housing. And what we do, I should say what they do, we, WEBT, just supplies the support, supplies the tools, and supplies the training. But what they do is they provide, do a weekly 2-hour radio exercise every week with rotating network control operators, the NCOs. They learn about radio, emergency radio protocol and procedures. The NCO is like the traffic cop on a radio network. In an emergency, you might have dozens of folks on the network. You need a way to control the traffic. Only one person can talk on a radio at a time. That's what the NCO does. The residents are trained in these procedures and these protocols. And in addition to the 2-hour exercise every week, which keeps folks practiced and connected, they came up with, again, this came from the ground up. They said, hey, Stu, we need a way to report to each other about what's going on with our elevator heat and hot water in our buildings. High-rise buildings, elevator buildings, 10, 20 stories, and folks need to know what's going on. So it's a way for them to report to each other morning and evening, taking control of their own quality of life. So just as to sum up here, Some of the lessons that we've learned over the 12 or 13 years of operation is you got to create local cells, local communication stakeholders on the ground. Utilize diverse technology. You don't know what's going to work when. You got to have multiple ways to communicate with each other. You need locally programmed information streams where folks on the ground are actually programming the information. And then finally, practice with exercises. You never know when you're going to actually need to deploy and when the communication is going to become critical. And finally, ongoing training and recruitment to keep folks up to speed and to keep fresh bodies coming into the whole initiative. So that's what we've been doing here in New York for the last 12 years or so. I thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Stuart. It's great to see that chapters filled the gap in services to help provide some amenities or services for communities around them. And so we want to thank you so much for excellent work and great things you guys are doing in your chapter and within your community. So I'd like to, yeah, you're welcome. So I'd like to invite Courtney Comber from ISOC Manitoba and the North End Connect project to speak on the power of community networks and the benefit they can provide to keep people in the know and how they can improve on it. So thank you and welcome, Courtney.
Hello. Hi. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I'm not sure where everyone is right now, but for me, it's good morning for another 8 minutes. It's a huge honor to be here today. My name is Courtney Comber, and I'm currently serving as the Executive Director for North End Connect. And I want to start by just acknowledging where we are and who we serve by stating the fact that we at North End Connect are on Treaty 1 territory, and it's the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, as well as the homeland of the Red River Métis Nation. So Winnipeg's North End, speaking to that, is one of Canada's largest, most vibrant urban Indigenous populations. It's a community that's defined by resilience, spirit, and immense potential, but it's also a community that has historically faced cycles of economic and social underinvestment. And in regards to the North End Connect and what we're trying to do there, I'm going to start off with a little bit of a video where Joel is going to explain it kind of more from the technical side of things. If we can go with the first video, please.
We're going to use antennas from a rooftop to rooftop to get the signal from downtown Winnipeg into the North End and then to spread it from there. We're starting with a couple of key rooftops along Selkirk Avenue, which is kind of right through the center of the community. And we're connecting back to downtown Winnipeg. Right in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, there's our antennas that connect to the internet exchange point, and then from there directly to the internet. So we're bypassing any kind of commercial internet provider. After the physical connecting of the residences and we start getting some users on board, we'll need to switch to a kind of a training mode where funding is brought in to increase digital literacy to kind of the basic user who needs to know how to use basic software or how to connect on video, online banking. Those basic skills are part of our scope as well. And the one thing that the North End absolutely has and has always had is an extremely strong sense of community. Lots of community organizations, lots of nonprofits in the area that are doing great work on things other than connectivity. So we're adding into that, and having more connectivity for community members will also help those organizations because they'll be able to have better connections with their clients and provide more services.
Not gonna lie, I thought it was more technically inclined than that, but either way, he says some good things and what we're trying to do. So this digital divide, it's not a new problem. It's honestly just kind of the latest chapter in a long history of exclusion for our community. And we often talk about that digital divide as merely a gap in technology, but from a personal perspective here in the North End, we see it as a lot more profound than that. not having connectivity, it's a barrier to dignity, it's a barrier to opportunities, and ultimately it's a barrier to self-determination. So it's that difference between being able to attend a virtual doctor's appointment and waiting days or weeks to get treatment. It's the difference between finding the best educational programs for your kid or missing out entirely because the information was only posted online. And if you don't have that connectivity, how are you going to know about these resources? So in a modern world, that access to essential services and critical information is becoming overwhelmingly digital. And for too long, our community has been left on the wrong side of that line. So as an Indigenous-led organization, North End Connect is here to change that equation, not just for the community, but like with the community, and ensuring that every solution is culturally relevant and community governed. We couldn't do half of what we're doing if it wasn't for the support of our local partners, as well as from ISOC and ISOC Foundation. So I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you've done to help and support us to get us where we are. And I'm excited to see where we're going. But I digress. So our mission at North End Connect is built on 3 foundational pillars, and each is kind of designed to dismantle a specific barrier to access that we see on a daily basis. So that first barrier is hardware. If you don't have a reliable and functioning device to actually get online, nothing else really matters, right? Because you don't have access to get there anyways. So that simple luxury of logging onto your own machine, for a lot of community members, the only access point that they have is a shared phone or even nothing at home, and they have to journey to a library and use public library, public systems. And just a little side note, that is the life that I have. I grew up in Winnipeg, born and raised, and this is a city, right? An urban area, we should have that connection. But we didn't. I grew up having to walk 3 kilometers, 6 kilometers a day to go to the library to sit on the computer for an hour just to walk the 3 kilometers home. And that was just a part of life. And that's still a part of life now, like 20 years later. So that turns simple tasks into stressful hurdles for people. And through our partnerships with local groups like Computers for Schools Manitoba and their refurbishment program, we're able to provide free refurbished desktops to North End residents. And working with Community Helpers Unite, we're able to borrow their truck and actually get the computers into the North End to distribute to them. So this is more than a transaction for us. It's about providing that fundamental tool that serves as a key to digital participation. And the second barrier is the skills. So even if you have a computer, even a brand new one is essentially just a paperweight if you don't know how to use it, if you're not comfortable and you don't have the confidence to utilize it safely and effectively. So that's why we're offering free tailored digital literacy classes out of St. John's Libraries, another local partner. So our curriculum there is practical and it's designed for real world needs. And a lot of our clients who drop into the digital skills literacy are elderly, newcomers, and that kind of group of people. So we meet them at their level. We teach them what they need to know and help them access the resources online that they need. And this is where that access transforms into true empowerment for people and independence. So we're not just giving them the skills, we're not just giving them the computer, we're equipping them to be more confident navigators in their own lives and of their own information. And the third, and honestly probably the most defining barrier, is that connectivity itself. So why should our community pay these exorbitant prices for unreliable internet when commercial providers consistently fail to actually prioritize service in areas like North End? And then our answer to that is to take ownership ourselves. So we're actively building our community mesh network, as Joel mentioned in the video. We have a few antennas up, and this isn't a service that's offered to the community, but it's a network that's going to be owned, operated, and governed by the community itself. So it's a robust, low-cost infrastructure designed specifically to make sure that access is affordable, reliable, and fundamentally controlled by the people who use it. So this, to us, is true digital sovereignty in action. So we're building this model not in isolation, but by learning from the best. And I've recently had the opportunity to go to Ottawa and to check out National Capital Freenet and see their setup to get an understanding of their technical successes, their operational challenges, as well as their maintenance models. And this diligence kind of ensures that North End Connect's mesh network is built for long-term sustainability and technical excellence, guaranteeing that reliable access for years to come. So what does this collective effort, the provision of hardware, the transfer of skills, and the establishment of reliable connectivity look like in the daily life of our residents? We actually see that tangible results of this collective effort every day. For students and those seeking new career paths, a reliable computer and internet mean completing online certifications, accessing job training modules, applying for post-secondary education, without resorting to expensive internet cafes or unreliable public access. For families, this is critical for managing health and well-being in the topic of emergencies. If everyone's being evacuated, you want to have that connectivity so you can connect with your family. You know where they are. You know that they're okay. For parents, it ensures that they're able to fully engage with their children's education, communicating with schools, and applying for essential community support programs like subsidized sports or housing assistance. So this collective impact from the hardware to the connectivity, it's how we translate a technical solution into true social mobility. We're ensuring that the doors of municipal services like healthcare, education, and employment are open to everyone in the North End, regardless of their financial situation. So our work at North End Connect is driven by the collective courage and wisdom of the North End. We're not just building a network of wires and computers, we're building a network of people who are determined to rewrite that narrative of digital exclusion. This is a moment of unprecedented momentum, and we're asking that you join us in this vision, whether it's through partnership, technical expertise, because you guys know a lot, or resources. Like, your involvement ensures that we get to continue building on this momentum that we have to build a future where every resident of the North End has that power and access to the services and informations that they need to shape their own kind of destiny and strengthen our community from the inside out. And I know I got kind of rambled at you for a while and I didn't have slides like everybody else, but I have another video, and I'm going to leave you with a video from one of our clients and her experience with North End Connect. Thank you so much.
I do not have access to computer, to internet, to Wi-Fi, or even a cell phone. Well, what happened was I became homeless a few months ago, and I lost all of those devices. One of the biggest barriers right now is just having no access, because everything's all computer now. Your bank accounts, job applications, resumes, everything's all computer. So that was one of the hardest things for me to get back on my feet. Well, it'll help the community as a whole, I think, because it's kind of funny when all the businesses close, you see all these little hotspots, and you see people from the community. Uh-oh, 3 over there, 4 over there. You try to find a quiet hotspot. But it's true, it's a reality. You come here in the evening, you'll see people standing outside the business. It's just to have that connection. And I think it's really important. And I'd like to be part of that, whether it's handing out computers or signing people up or even delivering computers. I was hoping to be part of the instruction part of the program, but we'll see what happens. I'm hopeful. So it's a good thing that you guys are doing this. This community really, really needs it.
Thank you, Courtney. It's interesting to see the similarities in the need for both service and information, and how they both truly benefit, how people benefit from the services you provide at the North End Connectivity Project. My special thanks to Joel and to you, Courtney, for excellent work you guys have been doing. For me, it's been an amazing achievement to see that your project has grown over the years. And just so I'm a native Winnipegger, and I live here in Winnipeg, and to see how you guys have been able to do this project and evolve over time, and how you help the community around us, I think it's something that it's worth celebrating. And so it's good to highlight you guys and to celebrate something I have personally witnessed myself. And so thank you so much for all the hard work that you all put into this. So without wasting much of a time, I'd like to just move on to hear our chapter representatives and provide an opportunity for them to discuss why is the internet such a powerful tool in times of natural disaster, and how connecting the unconnected and also ensuring a resilient internet is so critical in these times, right? The first question goes to Ron. So, what kind of resiliency challenge can or do you or should the San Francisco Bay Area chapter go after? And are there opportunities and or limitations in our abilities over there? Just if you could highlight some of those. Thanks.
Thank you, Caleb. Tough acts to follow. Joe, Stu, Courtney, incredible work. Reminds me we have a lot more we could be doing. So regarding resiliency challenges in San Francisco and in kind of just Northern California, ranges from, the gambit of disasters from, we had a pretty decent knock on an earthquake last week. We had a tsunami warning a month ago, or actually not a warning. It actually it did occur, but it was only a foot tall by the time it got here. But nonetheless, like just getting the word out is one thing. What to do, what action to take is another. And kind of tying disasters just to the skills that people have that I see kind of lacking even out here in Silicon Valley is it's not easy to just go throw up a network, right? The work that Stu, for example, does is incredible. This takes a long time to do. Takes people being interested. It takes education to manipulate these devices. It takes consistency in training and practicing. And so these kinds of things I think lack a lot actually out here in this area, especially when there is a lot of potential for disasters and actual disasters. And so our group, for what I see us trying to fulfill in the near term, is that educational gap. One is there is lots of groups trying to do lots of things, but there's not a lot of communication between the groups. So that's one area that I'm definitely trying to work out on. I'm technical myself, but to be honest, I'm not as technical as I should be when it comes to things like this, right? Just from a lack of practice. And so I think it just starts with some people trying to improve those conditions. And we may be Silicon Valley, but we're no different than anywhere else, right? We're all still just people, and we really need to keep up on these skills, know what tools are available. And that's really what the chapter's trying to do. We're trying to get out there, show people what options are out there, show that there's little communities of people with different skill sets, bring them together, and we can do a better job, and we are doing a better job. Thank you, Kevin.
Great. Thank you, Ron. Great insight. And thank you for also sharing the limitations as well. It's something to also highlight for all of us to learn lessons from, right? And so next, I would like to pose this to our newly launched chapter. And should I perhaps say reinvigorated new chapter, the Hawaiian chapter, Mr. Shan. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations on your new chapter. And second, thank you for jumping in to participate unofficially day 3 of being announced. But before we go ahead with your question, I think it's good to just celebrate you guys, to welcome you to the fold with just a little clap there. And if you can use your emoticons and all of that to just celebrate them for coming on board and welcoming them. You see, everyone loves you. Thank you for coming. So my question to you, I know you guys are new chapters, but you've experienced a lot. So my question to you is, what does digital resilience look like from an island perspective?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for the welcoming, and Internet Society has always been an inspiring organization to us. I do need to mention, I think, the indigenous connectivity work that was done, the summits. There was the convening in Hawaii a while back, I think, that was part of our re-energizing this movement. And I think we understand that local knowledge on the ground is very connected to indigenous knowledge and awareness. And so I think the model that was described for Winnipeg, I think, is compelling to us as well in our region. We use a term called pono pilina, which means a sort of a just connection or connections that are righteous, you might say. For digital resilience, I did want to share very briefly that as we're building capacity and awareness for our efforts in Hawaii, Hawaii is an island state. We're obviously not North America, but we consider North America to be Turtle Island. So in the spirit of island collaboration, I guess Hawaii is part of the North America region. But we're made up of very discrete island communities. And even within islands, the indigenous way of looking at it is ahupua'a, or from the mountain to the ocean, section by section, is kind of how you could really describe communities as they operate on the ground in Hawaii. So if you want to understand resilience and response, ability to respond to emergencies or disasters, I think we have our share of them as well. And I think the learning that we're appreciating is not to be overly defensive and protective about blame after the fact, but to be very constructively attentive to learn what could have been, what worked, what didn't work, what could have done better. So there's like a process of becoming more resilient is in itself a resilience, approach. We, in our early formation, so what we did was we convened with the 4 counties, which represent all the different islands, and we're trying to get state government and county government more educated about the issues of connectivity and internet and the issues that internet society deals with. And to us, that's a way of building capacity. Is almost everything happens at the state level in Hawaii, but to empower the counties, which is where things actually occur on the ground during a disaster, start engaging them in the policy discussion. We're leaning into some advocacy work in that regard. Sort of slowly but surely, we feel compelled at this point in U.S. history to step up. I just have to say to Stuart, I hope we are watching us as a way to protect ourselves from illegal renditions of people in our communities. And the fact that we have to think this way in the U.S. now is a great learning for us, because internet society has been teaching us how that happens in other countries for a long time. And it's time for us to learn and step up now at the very local level, at the community level, at the grassroots level, and build networks that are safe and curated by local people to meet local needs, not to serve remote interests. Anyway, so sorry I couldn't help but get on a little high horse there. But so Hawaii is new. We look forward to connecting. If anybody has an interest in reaching out to us, please, we will very quickly be populating some basic contact information and so forth on our website. Thank you. Thanks again for welcoming us.
Mahalo nui, Sean. And that's my way of trying to say thank you in Hawaiian, if I probably got that right. And for me, I think we look forward to learning more about the Hawaiian chapter and how you guys are going to start creating impact in your community. So I'd like to just switch locations a little bit, travel from the very warm Hawaii to the very cold Canada. And just to speak to my colleague over here in Canada, before heading back to our colleagues in the US chapter, the Canadian Internet Society has been at the forefront in policy development in Ottawa. Canada is home to some of the largest telco companies that citizens are reliant upon. And a few summer back, one of them, Roger, experienced a major network outage across the country. Georgia, this question is for you. So can you just talk about this event, how the outage that ignited a significant government response as an outage of service can mean there is no way we can be informed about emergencies, and what are some of the changes that have been made since this wake-up call? What lessons have been learned? And perhaps you could share some insight into that.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. Like Caleb said, I'm Georgia. I'm a board director at the Canadian Internet Society, and we're a very policy advocacy driven chapter of the Global Internet Society, and have been operational for a long time. So to your question about the Rogers outage, yeah, that happened in 2022. There were sort of two events that happened that summer. There was the Rogers outage, which lasted a couple days, and was really a wake-up call to a lot of people across the country about how deeply integrated their network was, and key services were across the country with the Rogers network. So one key example is that people couldn't access their credit card or make credit card payments in stores that day, because we realized that Rogers was a supplier for one of the major sort of credit card operators, like technology operators in Canada. And so there was sort of a collective, like, oh my God, I didn't realize how deep and how widespread this network is. And the outage only lasted a few days, but it was certainly a wake-up call. And then also, as we've been discussing extreme weather events, there was a major hurricane on the East Coast that year that completely knocked out their networks for days on end as well. And so the confluence of those two events, inspired a pretty big government response. So the government launched a telecommunications reliability agenda, and this created a whole array of initiatives. So first, the industry minister at the time, Minister Champagne, reached a network sharing agreement among the big telecommunications operators that in the event something like this happens again, that they're able to share their networks and make sure that the internet and access comes back on for Canadians. They also introduced cybersecurity legislation, because as we know, cyber attacks are a big threat to internet resilience and access. So they launched security legislation, which right now is going through the House of Commons again and is expected to pass before next summer. So that's a good thing. They also did a lot of work through the Canadian Forum for Digital Infrastructure Resilience, which is a multi-stakeholder body that the Government of Canada runs. And so they did a lot of work on how to improve internet resilience, cyber resilience, and made recommendations to the minister about what could be done there. And then also this year, the government launched a new national cybersecurity strategy, which also seeks to improve cyber resilience in the country. And with our new government, there's also a Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience. So there has been, for the past few years, lots of strides made by the government to make sure that the internet's always on and that we are prepared for whatever comes our way. And there's certainly more progress to be made, but that's sort of an overview of where we're at now in Canada.
Thank you so much. Interesting, Georgia, that you mentioned some of the resilience effort government is making with collaboration with telcos, and also legislative agenda that the government currently has to make improvement on that. So thank you for giving us those highlights. And I'd like to invite Joel, also from my local chapter, Manitoba chapter, to speak on resilience from remote perspective. As you're aware, there's been a lot of fire around in Manitoba. It's been a very interesting summer, and you've been assisting with work in remote areas in Manitoba. And so, what is the importance of the internet resilience and need for connectivity in remote areas of the Manitoba province? And why is the need for information so important to these communities during this emergency period?
Absolutely. Thank you, Caleb. Thank you for having me. My name is Joel Templeman, and I'm the Executive Director of the Internet Society for Manitoba chapter. So we often look at the rural and remote areas of the province from a kind of economic development point of view, how connectivity will support that. But this summer really brought the other side of the coin to the table. We had one of the worst, if not the worst, fire seasons in the province. Some quick numbers: more than 1.2 million hectares burned this summer alone in Manitoba. There's more than 17,000 people who were evacuated, so they had assistance being removed from their communities, but almost 33,000 evacuees in total registered. Those are people who self-evacuated or left on their own purposes. So that's almost 13,000 households that were affected by this. So this is not a small number. Tragically, but also surprisingly, there was only 2 civilian deaths in the entire summer period. So that is unfortunate, but surprising for the numbers that we were dealing with. And we're still in a state of emergency. There was 432 individual fires, and 73 of them are still burning today. So this was an unprecedented thing, but a trend also. This was a little bit better last year, but we've seen an increase as we go. So there's no reason to believe that this won't be an issue going forward. One of the things we wanted to look at was where technology has been included in this. So on the positive sides, there has been some amazing improvements and advancements in satellite imagery and forecasting models. So the ability to take weather information, satellite photo information, where hotspots are, and to use the compute power, algorithms to be able to put that all together and give real-time information to the people on the ground has been a real game changer. So the Canada FireSat system and a number of other systems really give those people who are not on the ground the ability to see the big picture and much better manage their resources, limited as they are. Alert systems, talking real-time emergency warnings over cell phones, televisions, and radios. And then the ability to streamline the Red Cross with all the other agencies for evacuee tracking and being able to support the people when they're out of their homes. Telehealth, virtual counseling, SMS message alerts, even people just to be able to communicate with each other. The use of social media and websites as primary channels. So there's a lot of technology that is being used to make the lives of the emergency management services as well as the people who are affected by it. So there has been improvements. That said, there's still lots of areas for improvement and lots of gaps. Many of the communities are reliant on, if they have a fiber, they have a single fiber. So if the road burns, if the area burns, as the farther you go up north, less and less fiber is in the ground and more is on the poles. So as we lose power to communities on the hydro poles, we lose fiber as well. Some projects were just finished recently and they've lost some sections of their connectivity. So there's a constant back and forth of trying to deploy and maintain links. Microwaves and satellites, even low Earth orbit satellites, are affected. Where they do exist are affected by the smoke. These fires produced extremely high smoke, leaving Canada even all the way down to Winnipeg and into the States. The smoke was intense this summer, and that impacts that communication. Limited bandwidth and high latency. So either the satellite latency or just the use of it. So these communities are used to having limited connectivity, but all of a sudden everybody needs to know information. So you've just got this surge of use, which overwhelms the systems. The evacuees lack the devices themselves or the data or the digital literacy, which we've heard about many times. And then there's a risk of the urban-centric emergency management or the government's forgetting about a digital-only communication system, right? Putting information on a website or posting it to Facebook or whatever is great, but if nobody can see that, nobody has access to it, then it's essentially useless. So that kind of level of coordination is really important, and more use of LoRaWANs and Hello meshes, mesh networks, and multiple opportunities for that. To my knowledge, we don't have an equivalent of the IT DRC in Canada at that level. Maybe we should. So there's just kind of general, highlight really quickly to just the general things. There's a lack of redundancy. This is not a system of systems. If there is even connectivity to community, as soon as people are leaving that community, they don't have the cellular access. A lot of the old phone systems and cellular system were failing, or the fiber that we're feeding them were compromised by fire. Like I said, the smoke degrades the signal, misinformation and outdated maps, and then alert fatigue as well. So there's kind of a balance between giving information to people on the ground and too much information as well. So getting that critical information. And then there's the structural digital inequities typically impact those who are already most vulnerable too. So we see that this is problematic, and it is disproportionately affecting those who are already at high risk. So we're looking at this from a systems point of view and noticing that there needs to be a much greater coordination and integration of systems. The other complexities are interoperability. So a lot of these systems don't talk. Communication systems don't work. At the command tables, we have federal, provincial, and local governments who have to work together, Red Cross and other nonprofits who are all in there. So there's a lot of groups that are well-meaning and have resources, but coordinating them and figuring out those responsibilities is always complex. And interoperability of the systems themselves would improve that level of communication and resource management as well. So the key message I think that we are putting out from looking at this last summer is that the connectivity is not optional, it's a lifeline. Rural and remote communications in Manitoba deserve resilient, redundant, and inclusive communication infrastructures to withstand climate-driven disasters. The safety of individuals and communities should not be determined by their postal or zip codes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joel, and for also highlighting the fact that internet is literally a lifeline in remote areas when there are wildfires and there are emergencies like this. So I would quickly move over to Tom. I'd like to just have the La Sucal chapter, who fairly recently dealt with a major wildfire in their community. So welcome, Tom. And with the wildfire, a number of apps were leveraged to assist in determining the spread of wildfire across your community and providing almost instantaneous updates. How did these crowdsourcing apps play a role in emergency response and recovery, and why are applications like this so beneficial that other communities or other chapters can also leverage on that kind of model?
Absolutely. And thank you, Caleb. And just thank you to all the other speakers who've touched on nearly everything that I wanted to say already about the connectivity issues during wildfires. In January, I was evacuated from my home along with hundreds of thousands of other folks in the LA region. And the initial connectivity is absolutely critical. I think we've had others speak very cogently about that. The only point that I would add on connectivity is that response and recovery phase is really critical. We still have parts of LA, even just driving 5 minutes away from my home in Topanga Canyon and in the Santa Monica Mountains, where there still is no proper connectivity that's sustainable for folks in those more remote rural areas of the county. And so this is an ongoing kind of probably multi-year project to rebuild and recover from this kind of disaster. In addition to that, the information layer is really critical. We're in an era of fake news, of conspiracy theories, of disinformation, just a very noisy information environment. And crowdsourcing information is critical during these events, but also really challenging given that the health of the information ecosystem right now. For LA, apps like Watch Duty were really critical. I know that's the same is true for other areas affected by fires. But Watch Duty in particular gave us that real-time alerting during the evacuation phase to help people know when to leave their homes, when to be preparing, and also when it was safe to return and what the status of property during that time was. But also, similarly, that information to coordinate the response at local level was really critical. We saw groups like the North American Red Cross and hundreds of other community groups organizing online to distribute resources to communities that really critically needed it, to get volunteers to the right places, to get resources to the right places. And I think that response recovery moment is actually the area that I would like us to be focusing more and more on as a community. But obviously, the connectivity underpins all of that information that we're all working so tirelessly to advocate for in the Internet Society. So with that, I will hand back to you, Caleb. Thank you all very much for your contributions today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tom, and everyone for your insight. This has been an absolute wonderful panel discussion. So before I introduce our final speaker, I'd like to share an infographic now for some food for thought on the significance of our community. And let's note and celebrate these numbers. As you can see, we are growing by numbers, and we are passionate, we are active. These numbers are good. Let's keep it going. And I'd like to highlight our community engagement opportunities, that we have many opportunities for you to get involved in closing that digital divide and making the internet more trustworthy. We are working on making our community work more visible, and so you have a part to play in it. And so part of the part that you have to play in it is, one, you have to stay up to date with what's happening around the world by reading our monthly community snapshots, as I'm pretty sure you receive emails on those community snapshots. And if you want to learn more about what was discussed in today's call or have your work visible to the community, please share with Kyle Shulman or any of our community engagement members and managers in the region, so we can add it to our community snapshot periodically. And of course, please keep sharing your updates and activities in Fontever throughout the year. This is very important. And I'd like to close by, first of all, just saying thank you all for being a wonderful audience today, for listening, being part of what we are doing today. It's been an honor to serve as your moderator during this panel. And my name is Caleb Ogundele, and I currently serve on the board of Internet Society, Board of Trustees of the Internet Society, I mean. And so without further ado, I'd like to invite our ISOC Managing Director in the person of Yogesh Khanna. So welcome, Yogesh, and thank you for joining us and being part of this call. It's always good to see you all the time. Welcome.
Thank you, Caleb. Thank you so much. Wow, what a fabulous session. I want to thank you, Caleb, Dan, Kyle, and the entire team that pulled this community day together. It's thoroughly enjoyable to listen to all the presentations. You guys talking about how many of you are using technologies, you're leveraging partnerships, engaging with volunteers as force multipliers to deliver tremendous value out there in our society. So thank you for doing all that work. And again, I can't thank everybody to join us on this wonderful North American Community Day. We truly are grateful for our strong community with diverse interests and such incredible knowledge and dedication to give back to the communities that we live in. Your efforts to bring people back online when it matters most really highlights, frankly, the spirit of service and dedication that ISOC truly values. Kyle asked me this maybe about a month ago to talk, and the theme that he talked about, today's theme, to provide connectivity during disasters and emergencies, it particularly resonated with me. What impresses me most about, as an example, about ITDRC, where you combine technology and volunteer expertise to make a tangible difference. This really is perfect sort of a mapping to ISOC's mission of an internet that is truly open, it's inclusive, it's resilient for everyone, and it shows how partnerships can really bring that mission to life on the ground in the real world. It also, the theme also took me back to my own personal past experience. I've actually shared this a little bit with Dan and Kyle. I worked on managing a couple of really large programs, specifically GETS and WPS. Those of you in the United States may remember that. GETS is the Government Emergency Telecommunication Services. WPS is the Wireless Priority Services, where the goal was really to make sure that the first responders and the public safety officials could actually communicate even when networks were overwhelmed. WPS truly came to life after the events of 9/11. Sort of goes back almost 24 years, but that's where WPS took birth. Prior to that, it was all landline stuff. WPS was focused on the wireless stuff. So my point is, your work kind of reflects the same principles that I've lived personally to help people stay connected in critical moments. Stuart's presentation around mobile radios took me back to my work at Motorola with the P25 LMR products. Oh my God, that was a fun experience trying to bring interoperability when you have the fire and the rescues and police officers all trying to use different systems. How do you bring it all together at a time of crisis? Phenomenal work back then, and certainly what you talked about today, Stuart, sort of resonated with me because what you're doing in Harlem is particularly of interest to me. I actually am spending a lot of time in Upper East Side these days. So what you're doing there in the city of New York, it kind of touches me in more ways than meets the eye. I'm just super impressed to learn about all of the chapters and everything that you guys presented today. Amazing to see the energy of the entire community. And oh, by the way, congratulations to the Hawaii chapter. Glad to have you guys join the ISOC family. So bottom line, I just want to thank you all for joining this call and everything that you do to ensure that the internet truly is for everyone. It has become a utility. It's a utility that is important for our livelihood, but it's important for our lives, as you have kind of demonstrated today. So I look forward to listening in some of the discussion that's about to follow after this session. Thank you again.
Thank you, Yogesh, for your kind words. I'm just so truly proud of these chapters and the whole overall North American community. This brings us to the formal end of the North American Community Day event. And I just want to thank all the speakers that participated today. Your contributions, your participation, it's just amazing to see. I'm so pleased. I'd also just like a big shout out to Caleb, our MC today. Thank you for your helping us out on this and your patience here. So it's been incredible. And then my colleagues behind the scenes, Leah Spain and Raquel, thank you so much for your help on the back end here. We'd love to hear your feedback about this event. So we're going to place a QR code slide on the screen to just give us your thoughts on this call. And if you'd like to see more of these type events. And we thank you very much.
Great. So thank you so much, Kyle. And this is my favorite part of any call that we have in ISOC with the new style that they've adopted more recently, the virtual social. And so we will now declare open this session to more of a Q&A, where we invite members to stay back and chat and share more stories. And so if you have any question for our panelists and all of that, please raise your hands. And I see Sean is having his hands up. He couldn't just wait. Aloha.
Aloha, I couldn't wait. This is a question for Stuart, because I come at this actually as a media access, information access, and then the technology sort of follows that. And I heard in a lot of your remarks that embedded in your approach as a radio outlet. So my specific question is, these emergency streams, the community info and emergency streams, how do you editorially manage that so somebody doesn't get on there and just start ranting? Or how do you manage editorially the content on those streams?
Well, the content is programmed by the local resident association at each development. So they're in charge of that. And they are also act as the moderator on the chat. So if somebody goes, off the reservation on the chat, they're able to terminate them and remove them from chat capability. So the bottom line answer is locally, resident leadership at each development.
Thanks.
Great. I see. So who is next? Who are we having next? Oh, Kyle.
I got a question for you. So
For
your
me?
lesson and the challenge, like what were the biggest challenges that you wish you knew day one of deploying your initiatives that you know now? And were there any things that you learned along the way that would be very influential on people that want to start their own kind of program similar to yours?
Thank you, Cal. I think the biggest thing is we did not realize the scope of the need. Initially, we were looking at just figuring out a way to collect local information from the community during a disaster and feed it back to the station for broadcast over the radio. But as it evolved, we learned of all the needs in the hyper-local communities. New York City, 8 million people. But within that, there are 300 plus housing developments, public housing developments, that are really little cities in and of themselves. Somewhere between 2 to 5 to 6,000 people in an individual community. And what we didn't realize, I didn't realize, was the need for internal communications within those communities in terms of quality of life, in terms of hyper-local emergencies, if you will. When an elevator or elevators go out and in a development with all the buildings are 10, 20 stories, that's a local emergency. And the folks within that community need a way to communicate. We didn't know that. That came really from the ground up. The residents themselves told us we need to be able to report to each other about what's going on in our development. So that was where the building situation reports came from there. It came from the ground up, from the community. The other thing, one other thing that became, as I think Yogesh said, or someone said, you've got to be able to utilize language, protocols, and procedures on the radio that everybody understands. So training in communication, low radio communications and emergency communications is critical. So it wasn't just our team of responders and communicators that we initially put together, our emergency broadcast team. It's folks in the community that needed training on how to communicate during emergencies. One of the things that I've learned working with my folks is something that is colloquially called the yo-yo effect. Yo-yo meaning you're on your own in an emergency. So folks on the ground have to have a way to communicate with each other within their family, within their community about what's going on. So that was something that I wasn't really fully aware of, and it's a big effort. So we're going from development to development, doing training workshops on emergency communications, how to use the mobile radios, how to use the streaming technology, and putting the tools in the hands of folks on the ground. So that was maybe one of the biggest lessons that I learned.
Awesome. Great. So who do we have next? To any of the panelists, did you spot any question that you feel you would like to provide more information on? Oh, great. Ron, over to you.
Hi. Would like to add more information out there. Just something I find interesting that might make other people raise their eyebrow regarding resiliency. So out here in somewhat sunny California, we just recently had Senate Bill number 53 pass, which is, I'll just give you the kind of initial sentence. This bill would enact the Transparency in Frontier Artificial Intelligence Act that would, among other things, related to ensuring the safety of a foundation model as defined, so on and so forth. So a lot of things about AI, but of note with this call is on the third page, section 1B, artificial intelligence, including new advances in foundation models, has the potential to catalyze innovation and the rapid development of a wide range of benefits for Californians and the California economy, including advances in medicine, wildfire forecasting and prevention, and climate science, and to push the bounds of human creativity and capacity. I just thought that was kind of interesting, given this was coming up, that of the dozen or so pages of the bill here, that they call out wildfire forecasting. So just something to think about, the use of AI in these things as well.
Well, it's, as somebody who's been watching AI and monitoring, and also in this kind of space, there's actually a lot of fascinating work that they're doing in that space. So it's interesting that they would call it out, but it is an area that's being a lot, because they need to figure out how to move, and just the scale of the fires you have out in that region is fascinating. So it's fascinating that they're calling it out, but yeah, it's a big area of work.
So thank you all. It's been an honor being your MC, moderator, or whatever name you want to give me. It's been fun, and thank you all for participating. I'll see you next time, and it's a wrap for the day. Please enjoy your week ahead. Yeah.